Station, this is Houston. Chris, are you ready for the event?
Hello, Houston. We're ready for the event.
ABC News, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is ABC News. How do you hear me?
ABC News, loud and clear. Welcome on board the International Space Station. Great to hear from you. And happy 50th Earth Day.
That's right. Happy Earth Day to you. Chris, you left Earth right in the midst of this pandemic. What was that like for you?
Well, I'll tell you, it was interesting. About a year ago, we as a crew, we knew we would be in quarantine during that period of time. What was surprising to us is the rest of the world joining as well. Our actual time in quarantine was not much different than previous launches, but talking to our friends and family and understanding what they were going through was what, we obviously were concerned about that. And then the final step was no launch guests were invited, or nobody could come to watch the launch. So it was a unique experience as far as launches go.
We spoke with your colleague, Jessica Meir, and she said that Earth right now actually feels more isolating than space. Is that what it feels like to you?
Well, I tell you, I think my life is far simpler than what everybody is going through right now. I wake up, I don't have to go to the grocery store. I can go to work. My commute is short. I know what I'm going to do each day, and I have two other buddies down at the other end of the space station to hang out with in the evening time. So it's really quite a nice place to be up here. I'm very empathetic for what people on the ground are going through, and Drew and Jessica and I talked quite a bit about that, what would their experience be coming from this environment going down into the world sheltering in place.
What are you thinking about on this Earth Day? Because it is a very different Earth Day.
That's a great question. I was actually reflecting about that this morning when I woke up, and I was reading ahead that I would be talking to you and thinking about Earth Day and what does it mean to me. I'm really thinking about how Earth is a spaceship for all of us, and whether it's a pandemic or climate impacts, it's all things that we have to do as the onus is on each of us as individuals, so that collectively we treat our spaceship well.
Right now you're seeing Earth from space, so what are you feeling looking down on the planet?
Well, there's several ways to answer that. The very practical way is, okay, I got 3 minutes to look at Earth. What do I got to do next? That's always in the back of your mind as you're an astronaut. You're working on your timeline, you're working on your schedule, because we're here to do a job, and the taxpayers are paying a lot of money for us to make good use out of this amazing laboratory in space. But more on the personal side, I think, is what your question is relating to. What am I thinking of as I look down at Earth? And when you're a person growing up in your town, you just know your town, and then maybe as you're an adult, you get to experience another town, another area, or if you're lucky, some international travel. So you have a little bit of a global sense. Being up here gives you this really cool perspective that as you fly around, in 90 minutes we go completely around the Earth, and in fact we just flew over Australia, and 45 minutes from now we'll be right over the United States. So I think about how fast we're going and how big the world is, but yet how small and interconnected we all are. Particularly in the pandemic time frame, it's quite obvious how interconnected we all are globally.
Chris, this isn't your first time in space. What tips can you offer so many Americans right now who are just living in isolation?
Well, I think people have had enough practice at it at this point. They can probably write their own tips. Every individual has a plan that works for them. What works for me, I can tell you, is sticking to a schedule. I like to have some kind of thing to look forward to, whether it's a walk, doing some push-ups or sit-ups or whatever kind of exercise, and watching Netflix is probably a nice thing to do. We don't have Netflix or streaming services up here, but the ground can send us footage, and the really only time I get to do that is during exercise or a little bit of time before sleep. But the heart of the matter for me is sticking to a routine.
How would you say space has changed you?
You know, I've been asked that a lot over the years, and I don't really think a whole lot. The one part that has a bit changed in my perspective is that Earth is our home, and when I kind of alluded this in one of your previous questions, just being so appreciative for what Earth provides us, so appreciative for what that skinny little atmosphere above Earth can do for us, keeping us all alive. And just really thankful that we have that as a home. I'm also very thankful that I'm one of the few people that get to explore in space and experience this. I wish everybody could have this opportunity to have this vantage point, to look down at Earth from here.
Yeah, and you mentioned that vantage point. So as someone who quite literally sees the big picture here, what can you tell so many right now who are living through these tough times? They might not feel excited to say Happy Earth Day. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that Rob Gronkowski is coming back to football. I heard that today, so that's something we all can be excited about. In all seriousness, though, I think that just be thankful for your loved ones. Be thankful for food on your table, and if you don't have those things, be thankful for your health. And that's something that we are all very cognizant about is our health. And I know that there's many people out there who have loved ones impacted or their own selves impacted by the health and situation. And really, my heart goes out to everyone, and that's what's so important about sheltering in place and doing our best to stop the spread of the virus and just listening to the guidance that's put forward. It's a tough time, I know.
Chris, what are you most excited about on this expedition?
Well, just getting up here and being back in the groove of things was first and foremost on my mind when I arrived on the space station a little over a week ago. And now that I've kind of settled in and Drew and Jessica left and I'm on my own, I'm really looking forward to the launch of the first commercial crew test flight of SpaceX coming up at the end of May. And my two good friends, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, arriving. That's going to be so exciting to see a new adventure, a new chapter in our nation's manned spaceflight history. Just that's what I'm really looking forward to, and just seeing that, because that kind of kick off a series of exciting things in 2020 in our space program.
And one final message, what would you tell the people on Earth right now? You've been there, you said just over a week and a half. So what's your message to everyone right now who's watching this, who is hopeful about that launch that you're talking about later on in May?
Well, again, I sort of touched on it previously. My message is simple. We're all. If you're listening to this, you're alive, and be thankful for being alive. It's an interesting time in our world's history, that's for sure. People remember where they were when JFK was shot. People remember exactly what they were doing when the airplanes hit the World Trade Centers in 2001. People are going to have their own stories for what they were doing during the pandemic. Now, this is not one discrete day, but it's a period of time that we'll always remember, and we'll always have our stories. Cherish the time with your family, cherish the times with your loved ones, because pretty soon we'll be, whenever that is, but eventually we'll be back to some new normal, and we'll be longing for the time with our family and our loved ones.
I love that. If you're listening to this, you're alive. Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Take care. All the best.
You too.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the ABC News portion of the event. Please begin the next event at your convenience by reading each question and providing the answer.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy on board the International Space Station. Happy 50th Earth Day. We have a few questions from social media that have been sent up for me to answer, so let's dive right into it. First question, how does space look from the International Space Station? They're talking about space, not Earth. We are familiar with the pictures of Earth from the space station. What about the other side? Well, that's a great question because I spend almost all my time looking out the window down at Earth. In fact, just last week, Drew and Jessica and I were doing an event, and the same question was asked: what do the stars look like? And I answered truthfully for myself, like, well, I don't really look at them. I don't see them that often. And Jessica, after the event was over, jabbed me in the ribs and says, "You crazy person! They look the same, and they look amazing. They look without a twinkle." And she's absolutely right. Space is so vast, and without the atmosphere to look through, the stars are nice and bright, particularly when we can use some of these really top quality cameras that we have to do some neat things and bring out, really make the stars pop. And the sky is beautiful. But for me, my money is looking down at Earth. That's what I spend most of my time doing. The second question, what technology do you use to get pictures of Earth from space? Well, we have a big suite of photo equipment. We have video cameras, all the way up to 8K video high definition, and the camera I'm talking to you on right now is high definition as well, not quite 8K, and we can use that to look out the window. And we have many lenses for our cameras. There's handheld cameras all over the space station, top quality, professional grade cameras. We take the pictures, then we take the card that those pictures are on, a USB card, insert it into a computer just like you have at home, transfer those pictures onto a specific drive where the ground team has the access to go grab those pictures and send them down. Now, everybody that's ever had a camera, which is the whole world, because everybody has cell phones and there's cameras on there, photo management is the bane of your existence. And if we're not organized up here, it can be the same way. So we have to be particular with how we name files, and in the ground, there's a whole process on how those pictures get cataloged. But suffice it to say, it's just transferring the files onto a computer, and then they get moved down to Houston. Third question, how do you notice or see changes of seasons on the Earth while you're in space? Well, what I find really pops is winter, the season of winter. And when you go over places that are frozen and have lots of snow, there's no doubt about that it's the wintertime season in that area. The same is true in the plush summer season. And last mission, I remember very distinctly looking down at New Zealand, and the green plush area there just was popping out. And that really got my eye in the summertime. The in-between seasons is probably a little bit difficult to tell, but like, for instance, a desert region of the Earth, it looks just like you'd imagine, very dry and arid. But the extremes are what you notice. The really plush greens, the really white winter kind of scenes, and then the dry, arid desert region. Next question. What message do you want everyone back on Earth to know as we commemorate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day? Well, Earth Day to me is something, a time when it's very appropriate and applicable to reflect on how important Earth is to all of us, pretty simply put. And what does that mean to me? To me, that means Earth is our home. Earth is a spaceship for all of us. We're all astronauts on board that same ship, except for 3 of us right now who aren't, myself and my 2 crewmates. But as such, we need to take care of it. Like Anatoly, Ivan, and myself, we're taking care of the International Space Station right now. And if we don't do our job, the mechanical equipment won't work well, and we could do damage to the space station. Just like all of the people on Earth need to do their job, do their part to keep Earth healthy. And so I think it's quite simply put, it's a time to reflect on what you can do in your own life. Each person can make those decisions that collectively can impact the world. Next question. How does going to space affect your body? Well, there's several different ways we can answer that question. Radiation is something that we care a great deal about, and we wear radiation monitors all the time here, and there's on our bodies, and there's radiation monitors around the space station. But we're protected by the same radiation standards that workers on the Earth are, and so we maintain our radiation exposure limits just like somebody on Earth, whether it's a commercial airline pilot or a nuclear power plant worker, the same standards. The effects of weightlessness, we've learned over these 20 years of people on board the International Space Station that load-bearing weight-lifting type exercise is key to our bone health. And therefore, we lift weights every single day. It's not to get big and strong, it's really to keep our bones nice and dense and healthy. And so this is an integral part of our daily plan. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the day, to get through the weightlifting. And then we do another 30 minutes on a bicycle or a treadmill. And that is sufficient, we found, to really mitigate the bone density loss. Now, all of the normal people things, drinking, eating, brushing your teeth, your hair growing, your fingernails growing, the need to go to the bathroom, all that feels totally normal. It doesn't feel any different to me. I know when I got to go to the bathroom. I know when I got to cut my fingernails. And my hair, you can't tell right now, but it has grown in the last week. So all that normal people stuff, to me, seems very, very Earth-like. Well, those are all of the questions I was sent up. I want to wish everybody down there a very happy 50th Earth Day from the crew of Expedition 63. Thank you for tuning in. We're having a great Earth Day up here, and in a couple hours it'll be our evening time, and I'll go down and enjoy a nice dinner with my cosmonaut crewmates as we look out the window and play some nice music on the radio and have a mixed bunch of food between our Russian cuisine and American cuisine and enjoy the evening. So I wish the same to all of you. Thanks very much from the space station.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station.
Thank you to all participants from ABC News and social media for your questions. Station, we are now resuming operational communications.